General Motors stock price, it's up 2.3%. I think we've got news of a tentative deal between the union and management at GM. Grady Trimble, do we?
That's right, Stuart. It's official now. According to the UAW, they've reached a deal with General Motors after 5 long weeks of contract negotiations. Word probably just starting to trickle down to these workers right now. However, the UAW is not releasing the details of the contract that they've determined with General Motors, but it seems like they've reached a deal. We can confirm that they do have a deal. We just don't know the details of it. I want to talk about next steps. Tomorrow, there's a meeting with the local union leaders. They'll meet and they'll decide whether to approve of this deal. And then if it's approved, it'll get passed on to the 49,000 General Motors workers across the country. Also at that meeting tomorrow, they'll decide whether to end the strike. But as of right now, at least for the rest of today, until that meeting tomorrow morning, the strike will continue. But there is a deal, according to the UAW, right now.
And that's why the stock is back up to $37 a share. Grady, thanks for joining us. Appreciate that.
A proposed tentative agreement has been reached between General Motors and the UAW. This breaking news coming on the 31st day of the strike. 7 Action News was the first to break this story with a push alert to your phone. Our Jim Kurtzner is live right outside Renaissance Center to break down what this means and what's next. Jim?
Yeah, we can tell you that the signs of this coming started yesterday morning when the talks here at the RenCen, the GM World Headquarters, included GM CEO Mary Barra and GM President Mark Royce entering the talks yesterday morning. We were told that was a productive session with questions and answers. And for the workers out on the picket line, this is good news. I've been getting texts from several of them. This is day 31 that they have been on strike, living on only $275 a week in strike pay, that coming from the union. And a new number out this morning from Patrick Anderson, the Anderson Economic Group up in East Lansing. He's estimating that 46,000 workers on strike have lost $835 million in wages, half of that here in the state of Michigan, while at the same time General Motors has lost $1.2 billion. Now, I can tell you the elected national negotiating team voted this morning to recommend this tentative agreement as it represents major gains for UAW workers. That's in their news release. In fact, here's a quote from Terry Dittus, who's the vice president for the union in the General Motors unit. He says the number one priority of the national negotiating team has been to secure a strong and fair contract that our workers deserve. I can tell you the issues involved in these talks have included wages, also guaranteed work for workers here in the United States, with General Motors making a lot of cars, for example, down in Mexico. And for a lot of these workers on the picket line, almost half of them, they're temporary and in progression workers, workers hired after the General Motors bankruptcy a decade ago. That was a concession the union gave the company so that it could survive. A lot of those workers out here now are cautiously optimistic.
Until we see what the tentative agreement is, I can't speculate. I'm hoping for the best. You know, all of our people will be flying in tonight, and they'll make a decision on whether they're going to bring it to the membership tomorrow. Until then, I'll be out here every day with my sign until we find out what's going on.
Now, we are expecting a statement of some kind from General Motors. We haven't gotten that yet as we're just coming on the air with this breaking news. But again, if you're just joining us, a tentative agreement is being announced in the 31-day strike against General Motors by the United Auto Workers Union. Back to you.
Jim, really quickly, where do things go from here with this tentative agreement?
There are several steps. There will be a meeting here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock at the RenCen with what's called the UAW Council. That's all the local union presidents and shop committee men from UAW locals dealing with GM operations from 10 states. They will vote on this agreement, then send it on to the rank and file membership if that vote is positive here. The other interesting thing is that council could vote to continue the strike until the ratification vote by the membership. That ratification could take at least a week, because that'll all have to be set up in those UAW locals in those 10 states. Again, back to you.
All right, it is a process indeed. Thank you. Right outside of GM headquarters, reporting live, Jim Kirshner. Great reporting, Jim. We will be on top of the story all day long, bringing you all of the angles on this tentative deal. Make sure to stay with 7 Action News and WXYZ.com.
The tentative deal could end the month-long strike of more than 49,000 workers. And this all comes during day 31 on the picket line for the General Motors rank and file. Local 4 Business editor Rob Maloney joining us live this afternoon out of Ypsilanti with a look at the reaction from this. And Rod, what are you hearing?
Yeah, well, Ebrod, first of all, let's talk about the actual agreement that was struck just about the last half hour. We're going to get some live pictures here of the RenCen, and that's where this tentative agreement was struck this morning. There is a Solidarity Day out there, lots of people in red shirts there, and it was at the RenCen in the Marriott Hotel there where the negotiations have been ongoing that they held an executive board meeting this morning. We were told to expect that executive board meeting. We at the time didn't suspect that it would be that they would be voting on the proposed tentative agreement, but that's exactly what happened. The press release went out a little while ago, and that's what we've been told to expect all along, was that there would be an announcement of a tentative agreement if in fact they had one. It came in advance of an announcement of a meeting that's scheduled for tomorrow at 10:30 at the RenCen for the shop committee people and also the local presidents to go ahead and hear the details of this deal and then vote whether to accept or not, and then becomes the possibility of leaving the strikers on the picket line for the next week waiting for the ratification vote. So all of that has yet to be seen. But let's hear reaction. We were right here at UAW Local 174, the gates here at the service parts operation in Ypsilanti, where the striking membership was out here and they got the word, and this was what they had to say.
Well, I'm glad if they got a tentative agreement. The leadership of the UAW wouldn't have accepted a bad agreement, so we should have a good agreement. That sounds great to me.
It's just, we're tired. We're tired, and we're just ready for some change, right, guys? That's right. And we just wanted to be treated fair. That's all.
Yeah. We're happy for it because that means that this could come to an end. And that's what we want. All we want is justice on what's supposed to be taken care of in this country as far as the workers. That's all we want. We don't want anything else. We want our fair share. We want fair pay for workers. We want temps to be hired in and have a direct line to getting a job and not just coming in every day and putting in the work and then going home and not knowing if you can go purchase anything. So we want all that.
I'm happy. I hope it's what they say it could be.
You're a little nervous, a little concerned?
Always concerned.
You've been around this a while.
Long enough to know better.
And what he's saying there is that you can get excited about the fact that there's a tentative agreement, but until you know what's in it, it becomes a question of, is it something you can live with? And so that's what they take to the shop committee chair people and also the local presidents tomorrow at that meeting. They then, if they agree to it, they have to vote. And if they agree to it, then it gets rolled out on a ratification process. And that's when the local membership actually gets to find out what's in the deal, at least according to what the union has to say. We, of course, will be going to work to find out more about what's in the deal. We have a pretty good idea, and we'll go to work on that and have that for you coming up on Local 4 News at 5 o'clock. So a tentative agreement here for the UAW. Cautiously optimistic strikers here out on the picket line, and they're happy that at least the possibility of a 31-day long strike is now over. Reporting live from Ypsilanti, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
All righty, Rod. Well, we certainly hope that agreement will mean that things can move forward.
Cautious but optimistic, Alicia, and I am with one of the UAW workers right now, John Hatline. And John, can you just give us a sense, hearing that there is a tentative agreement, what's your first reaction to hearing that news?
Well, my first reaction is hopeful. Okay, we're all hopeful that they do come to a settlement, and confident. I'm confident in my my leadership that they got us a good and a fair contract this year. So.
But at this point, it's still a wait and see stance for you?
Absolutely. We have to take a look at it and see if we got something for everybody out here, for our temporary workers, for our in-progression workers, for our traditional workers, and also our workers that are looking to retire.
John, can you just give us a sense of what this last month has been like, knowing that it may soon be over?
So, we've all suffered. Everyone's been out here suffered. We've gone without a paycheck, and some of us have struggled, others not so much. But we've done what's right and we've done what's just, and I feel that a good result will come because of this.
John, there was a lot of issues that were needed to be negotiated. What were some of the top ones for you?
Well, the top one probably is that our plant, if it's in there, I don't know, I haven't seen a tentative agreement, but our plant's going to stay open and we're going to get a product. So, that's probably the top one for me, being that we're going to stay unemployed. Our membership's going to be able to feed their families and have a good job.
I know that you're hearing some of from the rumor mill of potential details of this. Is that something that you will be able to support based on what you're hearing so far?
Yeah, so I've heard bits and pieces, but until yes, I can support some of that. But until I actually see it and it's read out from our leadership and explained to us, it's a wait and see right now.
All right. John Hatline. John, thank you. Now, we also have a quick statement that we just received from General Motors, and the statement reads, "We can confirm the UAW statement regarding a proposed tentative agreement. Additional details will be provided at the appropriate time." So that is what we are hearing from General Motors right now, and you just heard from a UAW worker about what this means for them in the next handful of days. For now, reporting live, Brian Abel, 7 Action News.
Cautiously optimistic, it sounds like he was. Thank you for that live update, Brian. Remember to stay with 7 Action News and WXYZ.com for the very latest developments on this tentative agreement between the UAW and General Motors.